I love Mark's gospel. Mark always adds these little details of realism to really make the story come alive. I love this passage where he talks that Jesus was so afraid, or not afraid, but concerned of being crushed by the large number of crowds gathering around him, that he told the disciples, you know what, let's get a boat ready, and I'm going to stand on the boat and preach in the boat so there's nobody behind me, so that I can, make sure that I don't get pressed in and crushed to death. I don't know if any of you have ever stood up on a boat or not, but it's precarious. You need to balance just so, because that boat's on the water, and you need to make sure that you don't stumble and fall. And especially if you're preaching, if you are talking to a large number of people, it's very difficult to project your voice like that and still maintain your balance. What a difficult balancing act to be on. We run into the same situation when we try to proclaim the gospel today. Maybe not physically. We may not have to keep a precarious balance on a boat, but we do have to keep a precarious balance in our relationships with people. St. Francis de Sales, the saint we honor today, actually is an excellent example of precisely this. He was the Bishop of Geneva when Calvinism was running rampant through Switzerland. And he came in, and his ability to use gentleness and clarity and that same delicate balancing act gave him the ability to not only keep from being run out of Geneva like so many Catholics were being run out, but also to win more people back to the Catholic faith. Not because he was a persuasive teacher, not because he understood what the church says, but because his own gentleness, his own love of Christ radiated in how he communicated. We can learn a lot from St. Francis today, because we are in no less a precarious situation today than St. Francis was in some 400, 500 years ago in the midst of the Protestant Restoration. No less precarious than Jesus was standing on that boat. When we're faced with situations like the ongoing sexual abuse crisis, bishops who have failed in their responsibility as pastors and shepherds of souls, when we hear things like the very discomforting thing that happened in D.C. last week, Washington, with those high school students who got into an altercation. We don't know what that's exactly about, but it still gives us a discomforting feeling. It's so difficult today to stand up and say, I'm Catholic. It's so difficult today to say, you know what? I need to be a witness to Christ and his gospel. That precarious balance can lead us to the same kind of fear of being crushed and being overwhelmed that Jesus experienced in the gospel. It's just too big. There's too many people. There are too many forces working against us to keep us from doing what we have to do. Like St. Francis, like our Lord himself, rather than give in to this concern, we need to learn how to find our own boat to stand on, to perch on the boat of the church, to stand there on our faith with a deep love of Christ, nurtured through prayer, nurtured through a recognition of his love for us, so that sustained by his love and trusting in his guidance, we are able also to preach the gospel not necessarily in what we say, but in the choices we make, in the lives we live, and how we bring Christ to bear in our world today, amidst all the difficulties, amidst all the crises, amidst all the trauma. God's grace can prevail in us.